Okay, my friend, we're going to go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium where there could only be one result today. Even Spurs couldn't not win against Southampton, and they got the job done. A couple of goals from Brennan Johnson and a Matthias Tell penalty, which I was a little surprised that Johnson wasn't allowed to get a hat-trick. Southampton got a consolation goal with Fernandez at 2-1, and Spurs went on to make it 3-1 and 3 points. And I think the point we all knew that was coming, that was just slightly being delayed, was Southampton now the first team to be relegated from the Premier League this season with, and some history, the first team to be relegated with 7 or more games remaining. Kind of tells you what kind of campaign it's been, Rob. 10 points, what is it? 2 wins all season, 1 win for Russell Martin, 1 win for Ivan Juric. It's been a bit of a sorry kind of season, really.
Yeah, again, it's so hard to stay in the division. There's so many things you've got to get right, let alone the style of play, which is the finishing piece that many will argue that the team was built in a way with Russell Martin that was all about playing out from the back. And I think we understand that it's the hardest way to play, really. And when you're a team coming up from the league below, it's really hard to try and do that. They stuck with it. They changed the manager. Many people thought, okay, good. Now Russell Martin's gone. Let's not fiddle around with it at the back and let's get it forward. But that still hasn't helped. No. And it just shows you maybe it wasn't Russell Martin. And I know they conceded some stupid goals and some really poor goals. But what else are they going to do? Were they better not doing that? They were no better. They're literally almost exactly the same with different managers. So players weren't up for it quality-wise. It's so disappointing, Rob, because we've both been there where you're back in the top flight and you find it so difficult to score a goal, get a point, win a game. And it's never nice to have a little bit of history attached to you. So 7 games remaining. The earliest the team's been relegated at the Premier League is not good. I just hope they can get more than 11 points and beat Derby as the worst ever team.
When you look at them, Rob, in terms of the group and the individuals and the players, listen, we don't know who will stay. Tyler Dibbling, somebody I think that many people will want to look at. No doubt with his talent, it's easy to see. Do you sense there's enough in that group? We've been in teams that have got relegated, and what then the demands of a 46-game championship season with everybody, fighting and scrapping to get out of there. Does this look like a squad? No, it's a difficult. You don't know. It's no crystal ball, but do you get the sense this is one of those possible bounce back?
Not necessarily. No, I don't. I mean, we know Tyler Dibbling is probably going to leave the club. Very talented player. Suleiman and Rob as well, plays on the left-hand side. He's Ghanaian, I think 23 years of age.
Not bad,
I always like watching him play because he's quick, he's dangerous, he's a threat. Whether they can keep hold of him, I think he's been there for a few years now, for Suleiman. So there's a couple of young players that would be the basis of a team going forward from the Championship, but you just never know nowadays. I know the owners changed out 2 or 3 years ago. Can't think of the guy's name now. Rasmus Ankerson, is it?
Yeah, was it Brentford, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a Brentford kind of moneyball guy, and he went in there with a Serbian owner, I think it was, to buy the club. That's been difficult. It's been a struggle. He took over and bought a lot of players and went with the young, talented footballing type.
Yeah.
We should have a podcast, Rob, maybe at the end of the season about all this, about what it takes to stay in the league and what's the best practice and what have we seen that works and what have we seen that doesn't work and what should the philosophy be and who should they buy. Goodness gracious. I know it's complicated because these clubs want to buy young players that they can sell on, but if they ain't good enough, you ain't going to stay in the league. And I think we've seen that now 2 seasons from Southampton, because I remember they had a transfer market, a window, Rob, 2 years ago in the league. And they bought a lot of young players, unproven players. I remember saying,
potential again, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like the potential's great, but right now they might not be good enough, and they haven't been. So it's a sad day. A relegation, we've all been there multiple times, and it's one of the worst feelings that I've ever had on a football field, getting relegated at Leeds one year with Middlesbrough. It was pretty tough to take. So, they've got to try and regroup and come back again.
Spurs got the win. Johnson got the goal. Tell gets the third one. It puts a little bit of momentum ahead of this big game now in the Europa League against Eintracht Frankfurt, Rob. I was a little surprised how strong Ange went. I mean, it was a strong front line with Solanke, with Johnson, with Son. Van der Ven had a bit of a break, and I think
Had a rest.
Udogie wasn't it one and two, but Bergvall. Apart from that, he had many of it. Madders was out there. Does league form play any part now with Ange? Is it just about Europa? Win the trophy, and you'll stay in the job.
Yeah, that's how I think it is. That's how it is. League form, I think, does play a part in it. I think we've seen this lots of times, Rob, where rested, didn't play well in the league, but they got a big game coming up, expecting it to go well, and sometimes it has. But I would say, on the balance, mostly it hasn't. So this is better. I think, to be fair, he's managing minutes over the last 2 league games now. We talked about it in the last pod, and those players are rested this time, that came into play this time and start. So maybe he's just like Arsenal. We'll get onto them in a second. I think there's others that are just managing players' minutes to try and put them in the best physical position for these big European games. A player that I'm really starting to appreciate, and is my underappreciated performer of the weekend, is Brennan Johnson.
Yeah.
Brennan Johnson. He's got 11 Premier League goals, Robbie Earle, the top goal scorer in terms of Premier League goals at the football club, in a team that's struggling. I know that they've managed a fair number of goals, but it's not a brilliant team. I think he does really well.
Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned it in the show at the end of the game. He's really, really good coming from the right and making really effective runs that he ends up getting on the ball. First-time shots, first-time finishes, sweeping in. Typical goals from him today in the game, where he just does a lovely job of assessing as he's coming in from the right. You can see the ball down the left. He's assessing which way he's going to make his runs, and he often makes the right one. And his contact on the ball is really good. His second finish is a deft little touch. I think he's a little underappreciated, Rob, in terms of what he is as a player. Now, I know he's had injury problems. I know, you can be blanketed with some criticism when things aren't going well, and they've got the son's not playing well, and Johnson. I think he's a very effective goal-scoring winger that's quick. He's still young. He's maturing. And 2 more goals today. I think he deserves an underappreciated shout. Yeah,
it's a really good shout. Because remember, was it at some point last season where he actually came off social media because he felt he was getting a little bit of undue stick and was being affected by it a little bit. So he looks a young man who is still building his confidence, is still building his position as a Premier League player. And as I said today, and I said, but I think we're starting to see towards the end of what Youngman's son's going to be able to do at Spurs. He's been a brilliant player for them, but he's having probably less effect. And I think Johnsons of the world are going to have to step up. Odegaard, players younger players who've come into the squad by Ange. And you're right, 11 Premier League goals from a wide position, Rob. With game to go, and he didn't take the penalty today, which would have been possibly 12 if he'd got himself a hat trick, but was prepared to let Tell get the goal. I think it's a really good shout, and I think he could be a really important player for Spurs as they move forward. But for some reason, I don't quite know, and if Spurs fans out there, they might be able to inform us why. For some reason, he doesn't seem to be universally liked at the football club, or I don't know, when he first came to the club, I think people used to think, what's he actually do?
No, that's a good point. I think there's a little bit of that. And again, Spurs fans will, it's hard for us to really get a sense of the feeling the majority of the Spurs fans for certain players. But when you consider him and Bergvall and Archie Gray and a lot of the other players at this club that's of a good age, and
Spencer's developed to a player,
there's some good players at the club. And I also remember that he doesn't take penalties. So he's 11 Premier League goals with no penalties. A lot of the other scorers on the top of the list, they're the penalty takers at their football club. So another little tip of the hat to Brennan Johnson and what he's doing. And I think he'll continue to be an important player for him,
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.